Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. For today's video it's actually going to be a real special one. I'm very excited for this video and for you all to see it because it is in collaboration with a few girls that I have met over Instagram. So I'll just quickly introduce them. They are Ruby of My Eye, and she's called Ruby. Charlotte Stylist, which is Charlotte. So basically this is a collaboration between the four of us, and yeah, I basically wanted to create a video where it was kind of spreading awareness for women who are autistic, and kind of showing the difference between each autistic person, and just showing that actually autism is different for each person and affects us all differently. So there are four of us all together, and basically I have created 10 different questions and we're each going to answer them, and so that you can kind of see the differences between all four of us, how we're all affected from autism. So yeah, I'm very excited for this video. Thank you so much to the three girls who was so lovely to be involved in this video. I'm so thankful for them. I think this is going to be a great collaboration and I'm really excited for it. So please keep on watching and I really hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Beth. I am also known as Spectrum of Style over on Instagram and also on YouTube. So I am 23 years old. I am originally from a small town in Worcestershire called Evesham, and I moved to a small town in Shropshire about 8 to 10 years ago. I think I was around 14 years old when I moved up here.
Hello, my name is Ruby and I am 22. I'm turning 23 in 2 weeks. I am originally from Surrey, but now I live in Devon, and I am doing a master's degree in Plymouth in performance training.
Hi, my name's Charlotte and my Instagram name is @CharlotteStylist. I'm 22 years old and I live in Wiltshire with my husband and my therapy dog Leo.
I was diagnosed with autism at 7 years old. I don't remember a large amount of that sort of time of my life. I don't have the best of memory, but from talking to my mum, she has said that it was a very long process. She did say that it was fairly easy for them to actually diagnose me because of the very obvious signs from my early childhood, and just having it was just very obvious to them that I was autistic or am autistic. But having said that, it was still a very long, hard, traumatic, very stressful process for myself and my family. She said that it was quite hard for them to watch me go through. I had lots of different assessments. It was a very long process. It was quite a big ordeal really, very tiring, draining, stressful, very overwhelming, quite overstimulating, because I had to do lots of different assessments. So yeah, it was a lot to go through really as a young child with autism. I also had to go through lots of different speech therapy sessions. For years actually I had to do that. But yeah, that's when I was diagnosed.
So I was diagnosed at 22. I have got my diagnosis this year, so it's very new to me and it's very early on. It was a very difficult process and it actually took 4 years. So I started that process when I was 19, because as I said before, I'm about to turn 23, so it's been that 4-year long process.
I was 20 years old when I was diagnosed with autism, specifically Asperger's. It wasn't that difficult for me to go and get diagnosed actually. I went to the doctors with my husband and I explained everything that I was experiencing and that I think I might have autism. We thought there was something wrong with me years and years ago, but I was kind of discouraged from by my mum and my parents to get diagnosed, because they said that having a diagnosis might hold me back. But I finally decided that I really need to just find out what's wrong with me. And yeah, so I went to my doctor. She then referred me to the Wiltshire Autism Diagnosis Service, I think, which is obviously the local diagnostic service, I guess. So then I went and had 3 appointments, and they were like 3 or 4 hour long appointments. They were really long, really draining. I had to go through my whole life story basically, and because I didn't have my mum there with me, it was just me and my husband, I had to kind of answer the questions on behalf of my mum, and I had to find out from my mum all about like if I was breastfed and all that kind of stuff. The questions were really detailed and the appointments were really long, and I often came away from the appointments feeling really drained and quite upset. And I often said to my husband, what if I don't have it? What am I going to do? I just need to know what's wrong with me. And then after the first appointment, I asked the lady, do you think I've got autism? And she said, 100%, you've definitely got it, but we need to go through these other 2 long appointments to really work out what kind of like where on the spectrum you are. And she eventually came to the conclusion that I had Asperger's.
On a day-to-day basis, I need a fairly strict routine. I do get quite stressed out if my routine is changed. It doesn't have to be like hour by hour, but I just need to know what's going on and feel in control of it. Otherwise I do get very stressed. I'm very overwhelmed by it all. I currently only work part-time. I'm at the moment still very dependent on my mum, and I can't see that changing anytime soon. I'm still very dependent on her, just as much as really, or I was going to say just as much as I was when I was a child, but year by year it does get easier, and I do grow and learn to try and be a bit more independent each year. But yeah, compared to my peers my own age, people my own age, I'm still fairly dependent on my mum. I also struggle with communication sometimes quite a lot, to the point where like I stumble my words. I get very socially anxious. At work it can be quite difficult sometimes to have like conversations with people at work, and also the general public. I really struggle to have like small talk to the general public. Making friends is really difficult. I know that's not like on a day-to-day basis, but generally I struggle to make friends, which kind of goes side by side with the like communication side of things. Yeah, I do struggle to kind of make bonds with people, so that's quite difficult. I sometimes have like obsessive behaviours, or kind of I kind of describe it as needing reassurance quite a lot. So I sometimes ask the same question over and over again to be reassured constantly. I'm going to give you a quick example actually. So this is just so random, but basically me and my family have a pet dog called Millie, and every day without fail I will continuously ask my mum, like, did you feed the dog? Did you make sure to feed Millie? Did you feed the dog? Like, I'm quite repetitive sometimes. I need reassurance that something's been done or that something's happening, or yeah, I describe it as that I need quite a lot of reassurance. I sometimes need to be told a certain thing a few times before it completely goes in. So yeah, there we go. There's a few things that happen on a day-to-day basis.
So my autism affects me daily because I think it's more the things that I struggle with that other people might not understand. That's the hardest thing for me, is if I need something done a certain way that people are going to find that difficult or weird. So just like my eating habits, my routine needs, my sensory issues or habits, and needing those sensory things in place that might be quite difficult to implicate on a daily basis, and that can get quite difficult.
So autism affects me on a daily basis because I have to have a daily routine, and it has to be the same time every day, and I have to plan my whole life. And if something doesn't go to plan, or something changes, which it quite often does, especially being a military wife and just life happens, it can cause me to have a meltdown, and I can get really upset and I get really panicky. I work in a retail shop on the weekends as well, so that's a really overwhelming experience for me, because working with other people is hard. Social interactions I find really hard. I can't get my facial expressions correct, so people often think that I'm annoyed or something like that, or I word things incorrectly, and I might be offensive unknowingly. I often have put my foot in my mouth because I've said things that I've not known is offensive or rude, and I just thought it was an innocent comment, and it's caused a big argument. So yeah, I often say the wrong thing when I shouldn't, and I don't have a filter. I just say whatever is in my brain at the time, and that often gets me into trouble. I also have a heightened sensitivity to pain and a heightened sense of hearing, I guess you would say. I can hear the electricity in the walls, and it's never stopping and it's so annoying. So yeah, it's kind of a superpower, I guess, because I have really sensitive hearing, and often my sense of smell is really strong. And also, what else? My taste buds change pretty much daily, so one thing that I'll like for dinner yesterday I won't like today, and it will taste completely different to me. So that's another really annoying thing for my husband, because he never knows what to cook for me. So yeah, those are a few things that I think affect me on a daily basis. Also, if I'm driving somewhere, I have to practice the route. If it's somewhere new, I have to know where I can park. Another handy thing is I have a blue badge, a disabled badge for parking, which is really, really handy, because it means that I can park close to my destination, and I don't really have to worry so much that my journey will change due to parking, which is really handy. Also, eye contact. I find it really hard to just give people eye contact. I always look away. I feel like I'm doing it a lot now, even though it's a camera, but I find eye contact really difficult, and I often find myself social masking quite a lot, even in front of family and friends.
When I originally wrote this question, when I was planning out this video, I kind of thought that there would be some big changes to my challenges that I had, and difficulties that I faced when I was a child versus now as an adult. But actually, when I sat down and thought about it, I realised that there probably isn't that many big changes. Not a massive deal has changed, I would say. I still struggle to be completely independent, although I am getting slightly better, as I said earlier on in the video. As I get older, it does get a little bit easier. I still need a routine, and get quite stressed out and anxious if it changes, so that hasn't changed. I still struggle to make friendships, just as much really as what I did when I was younger. I still see the world in a very black and white way. I don't really know how to explain this. My mum would just say that I just see things like one way, and that's it. I think I'm not very good at hearing other people's opinions. I would say I'm very stuck in my way, which can be something that other people find frustrating. But it is something that I work on every year, every day. I work on it. I try to see other people's points of view. Yeah, I'm always working on myself, always really trying hard to have a more open mind of the world. There are some things that I have learned to cope with more. For example, social situations aren't as bad as what it was when I was younger. My mum said that when I was younger that some social situations I would just literally like want to curl up in a ball, and I would be it would just be so overwhelming, so stressful for me as a child. And now I find it quite, I get very anxious in social situations, but I can cope with it better. I can actually deal with it, I would say. It's hard, but I can deal with it. My language is a lot more eloquent these days, a lot better. I think that's probably from the years of speech therapy that I had, and also with age as well. But yeah, my speech was very poor when I was younger. Apparently the only people that could really understand me was my mum and my stepdad, I think. So that also means that I'm better at interacting with people. I've learned to interact with people better, and yeah, that's definitely improved a lot.
So I think the challenges I faced as a child was more like with my camouflaging and like learning to fit in. I didn't fit in to society very well, and I didn't really have a lot of friends. My sensory things were an issue, but that's what we thought was anxiety, and that kind of came out as anxious responses. Now as an adult, I guess it's more, when you're an adult, the world assumes a lot more of you and expects you to be obviously neurotypical functioning, and so that's where more of my difficulty comes in, is when I can't necessarily like perform as well as someone who is neurotypical, and that has meant far more struggles, because I think it's just the assumption there. So a lot of things are more difficult as an adult. Far too much to go into, but just daily life really.
Challenges that I faced as a child versus as an adult were, as a child, I couldn't handle my emotions. I was always I would like fly off the handle. If something upset me, I couldn't control my meltdowns as easily as I can now. I feel like it has become a lot easier as I've gotten older and I've had more life experience, because you just learn to deal with your emotions better, and to hide your meltdowns better as well. So, because you can't really go around as an adult or a professional in the workplace having meltdowns left, right and centre over certain things. So you learn as an adult to control your emotions better and to kind of hide those things that would normally set you off. So I feel like as an adult you just learn to deal with life and what life throws at you.
Yes, I have had loads of people be negative towards my autism. I've lost count of how many people have been negative about my disability, and when I was at school I did get bullied quite a lot because of it, and it was just such an awful experience. I may make a video on it, talking about my kind of story with school life and all the difficulties with that side of things, because it's quite a long story really. But yes, definitely had people being negative, even in the workplace, where you don't really think that it would occur, or I assumed that in the workplace it just wouldn't happen, because surely it's supposed to be a professional environment, we're all adults. But yeah, I was quite surprised. It definitely happened in the workplace. I have had friends, after I had told friends about my autism, I've had negative reactions. I've even had a friend tell me that if she had known that I had autism, prior to making friends, then she wouldn't have become friends with me, basically. So that was a kick in the teeth. That was lovely to hear. But yeah, we're no longer friends, which I'm sure you can imagine. But yeah, definitely had the fair few negative reactions, let's say.
So the only kind of negative response I've had from my disability is when I need like something alternative, or I need some extra help. I have found that people think I'm getting like a hall pass, or I'm getting special treatment, when obviously all it is just allowing me to function at the same level that someone who is neurotypical is. And so I have found that it's more like a reflection on the extra needs I need, or if I'm talking about it or I'm quite outspoken about my disability, I found that people tend to shy away and they don't like me talking about it.
I have definitely been bullied because of my autism. I often feel I can't make friends, or I find it really hard to keep friends. As soon as people find out I'm autistic, they tend to treat me differently or exclude me from friendship groups, and I find that really hard because I really want to have friends, and I do try, and I find I'm a really kind and caring person, but often people just tend to treat me differently because of it. And I have even been fired from jobs because of my autism. As soon as the manager found out I had autism, he fired me. So I have had a lot of negative experiences in my adult life because of my autism, and because people can just be mean.
I decided to start talking about autism and also mental health over on my Instagram a couple of years ago. I originally made a blog post talking all about my journey with autism. I'm not sure what inspired me really. I think I just felt like I never really saw anything on social media about the disability, and I just wondered why, really. I wondered why there wasn't anybody talking about it, and I was very frustrated with the fact that there was still so much negativity online surrounding autism, and I was so disheartened by it all, really, and wanted to try and use my social media in a positive way, trying to spread awareness for it in a positive way. And kind of, I thought it would be good to see it from the perspective of somebody who actually has the disability, instead of it being talked about by the parent, because I do often see people talking about their child, their autistic child, which is brilliant. Anybody spreading awareness for the disability is brilliant, but I never really saw anybody doing it from their own perspective, and I just thought, well, why not me? Why don't I give it a go? And yeah, that's kind of how it all started, really. I also did feel like I didn't really see much out there about invisible or silent disabilities. So what I mean by that is that autism is usually not visible. You can't necessarily tell that somebody is autistic. I have quite often told people that I am autistic, and they are shocked. They didn't realise, and that's because you can't necessarily tell by looking at me. And that's what it means by like a silent or invisible disability. And I feel like that also needs to be talked about more, because in some ways that can be harder to explain, it can be harder to understand for neurotypical people, and that's also why I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to do it.
So because I work on social media, I share a lot of my life, and it kind of felt natural to share my diagnosis and talk about my autism, because I know that there is so much like stigma around females with autism. There's a lot of misinformation, and it's a disorder that is hugely researched into the male perspective, and not a lot of research on the female's perspective, and obviously since I'm researching it in my master's, I thought I could share some of my research and share personal experiences that hopefully could help some other people.
I think it's really important to spread autism awareness, especially on social media, because I feel like it's a very misunderstood disability, and it also varies from person to person. So what might cause me to have meltdowns might not be an issue for another autistic person. And I also think it's really good for neurotypical people to understand how much of a challenge it is to have this, and how hard it is to live daily life with this disability.
At this current time, I'm not able to live independently. I'm hoping within the next sort of maybe 2 to 3 years, I will be able to possibly move out of my family home, but at the moment I'm nowhere near that stage. I still only work part-time because a full-time job is very, very, very stressful, very overwhelming. Just being in the work environment is quite a challenge for me. I also may talk about that in a separate video, because I think when I was at school, I assumed that when I became an adult, that my work life and my adult life would be so much easier than what my school life was. I just always assumed that it would just be easier, but I've kind of found out that that's not the case. It's been very, very challenging, so I may talk about that separately, but yeah, currently I'm not able to financially support myself independently. Like, I wouldn't be able to have my own home, let's say that. But yeah, I also do depend on my mum quite a lot for support. So at the moment I'm not able to live or support myself independently.
I live independently. I choose to live alone. It was easier for me that way. I found that when I lived with housemates, it was just difficult socially because it was tiring. So I loved my housemates and we're still really good friends. I think it was just tricky for me because if I was at university all day and I was socialising, I'd get so tired that I just wouldn't have anything left to be able to socialise in the evening, and I just didn't feel I was able to. Now it's easier because I can kind of prepare for that and see them when I'm able to, and I think therefore we have a lot of a better friendship that way. So I do live alone, but I don't need support because I've kind of got my own routine and I've set myself in what I need now.
I feel like I am mostly able to live independently. I do need a lot of help from my husband, which is hard because he is in the military and he often goes away for long periods of time. But that is why I have my therapy dog. He's sleeping in the corner of the bed there. But he helps me every day. He helps me when I have meltdowns. He'll take me to a safe place. If I'm having a meltdown, he'll lick my tears away and jump on me and make sure I'm okay until I'm calmed down. Often, if I have a meltdown, my therapy dog will jump on me, and within 10 seconds, the meltdown will already be subsiding and I'll feel a lot calmer. So I definitely have a lot of help from my dog, and I find it really hard to relate to humans. I find it easier to relate to animals and I guess connect with animals on a deeper level, I guess, than I do with humans. I find it really hard to sympathise and empathise with humans, whereas with animals I find a strong connection with them and have a great deal of empathy for animals, whereas I don't for humans. So I find I can live independently, but I do need help, a lot of help from my husband and a lot of help from my therapy dog on a daily basis.
In some ways, yes, I would say that autism has kind of stopped me from doing things and achieving things that I would have liked to, more in the sense that my anxiety that I get over like social situations, because I really struggle with them. So for example, when I was younger, if I ever got invited to places like maybe a party when I was at high school, I probably would have said no, and I would have missed out on quite a lot of social situations, social occasions, because of it. There are certain things that I can't do, certain jobs that I can't really do or take. At the moment, I've got a job that kind of fits my life and my abilities quite well, but I am struggling to think of in the long run what industry I'm going to be working in because of my abilities. So yes, I do think that autism has stopped me from doing things that I would like to do, but mainly because of my anxiety, which kind of stems from the autism, I would say. So yeah, definitely autism has definitely stopped me from doing things that I would like to do and achieve. But I would also just like to say that I have also achieved things that I didn't think I could achieve. I've done so many things that I'm so proud of that I really didn't think I could do, and you know, every year I surprise myself with new things that I have achieved and been able to do, really, and I've got to give myself a pat on the back for that, and kind of remember to remind myself that I am actually doing fairly well, all things considered. And yeah, just because we have a disability doesn't mean that we can't achieve certain goals. It just means that we may struggle to do so, we may take a bit longer, but it doesn't mean that we aren't able to necessarily do things. It just may be a bit more difficult.
I don't think that my autism has necessarily held me back from doing anything. It's meant that I've had to take some alternative routes. So for example, I didn't actually get the qualifications to get into university, but because I did alternatives, like I did Lambda, that gave me UCAS points, because during my A-levels I struggled a lot with now what we can recognise as my autism, and finding those structures really difficult for me. So I didn't do very well on my A-levels, but because I had those like alternatives that allowed me to go into university, so it's just more like making adjustments to get to where I wanted to be, rather than it necessarily held me back.
I feel like autism has stopped me in the past from doing what I want to do. I used to be a fashion stylist for TV shows, and I used to live in London with my parents, and I feel like sometimes it would get in the way of me getting jobs, or even holding down a job, because I find it really hard sometimes to go in every single day and have the restrictions that a full-time job specifically, can often have on you. So yeah, I often feel like sometimes it does restrict me.
Yes, I 100% wish that I could change the way the world views autism. There are obviously going to be people out there that aren't negative towards it, are really kind, and have a great deal of understanding of autism, and that's amazing, and I wouldn't change that side of things. But there are a very large portion of the world that are still very negative, very uneducated, let's say, and actually quite cruel sometimes, and I would love to be able to change that side of things, and try and change the way people act and how they talk to people and talk about autism, but unfortunately I am just one person and can't do all that. But yeah, I would love to change the way that the world views autism. yeah, I often see things on social media, certain words and phrases being used that are so offensive to someone like me, and it just breaks my heart. It honestly does. I just wish that everyone could just be a little bit kinder, that everyone could just be a bit more accepting and a bit more educated, actually learning about disabilities, understanding that we're all different. Yeah, I just really wish that people were a little bit different about this side of things, and just also willing to learn as well.
I wish the world would see autism differently, because I still think there's a huge amount of misinformation, and there are a lot of people who don't understand it. I think what frustrates me the most is the assumption that everyone with autism functions the same, and if you have met one person with autism, you think, okay, like I know what this is, and we are all so individual, and we all struggle with a variety of different things, and like majority of us don't mind you asking. So if someone took the time to ask me something that I struggled with or that they could help with, that would mean the world to me. So I guess it's just like understanding people individually that I wish that the world understood more.
I do wish the world would see autism in a different way. I saw a quote on Facebook last night actually saying that autism is not a disability, it's a different ability. And I really like that quote because I think that's very true. I have different hurdles to normal neurotypical people, but I feel like we're all very able to overcome these challenges that it faces, and I think it makes us more understanding human beings. And I do wish that the world would understand autism more.
Yes, there has been many times that I have wished that I didn't have autism. There also have been times where I have kind of liked the fact that I was different, because being the same is just boring, isn't it? But yeah, there has been many times where, especially at school, I would say, when I was getting bullied quite a lot, and people were being very mean, and I would always just think, why can't I just fit in? Why can't I blend in, be the same as everybody else? Why is it me that has to have this? Yeah, at school especially, I just hated having this disability and feeling like I didn't fit in, and that I was different to everyone else, and that I stuck out and in the crowd, and yeah, it was just not a very nice feeling. As I've gotten older, I have kind of grown to accept that part of me, even kind of love that side of me really, and love the fact that I am different. I have my quirks, just like everybody else. We're all different in this world, and I have accepted that side of me, and you know, I can't change this. But yeah, there have been times when I had wished that I didn't have this disability. Even sometimes now there are days where I think, oh, I wish it was easier. I wish I didn't have to have all these difficulties and these challenges on a fairly regular basis, you know, a daily basis, where why can't I just be the same as other people my age, you know? I try to be positive about it. I've learned to accept it, and yeah, I think that's something we should all do, accept who we are, love who we are.
Short answer, yes. Yes, I have wished I wasn't autistic. I feel like I don't like causing a fuss, and so when I need these alternatives or I need some extra help, I don't like having to be the one who asks. And sometimes in social situations as well, when I am kind of saying something that comes out wrong, or I get quite loud a lot, so in social situations I tend to kind of overpower the situation or be too much, and that really upsets me. So I wish that I had not necessarily like more control, but I wish that I didn't do that. So yeah, a lot of the times I do, but a lot of the times I don't, and it's me recognising that is part of me, and it's a wonderful community, and so I am really glad to be part of it.
There has been many a time where I say to my husband, I just wish I wasn't autistic and I wish I didn't have this disability, because I feel like sometimes it's just so annoying to constantly hear the electricity or hear creaking bones or have these stupid things that stop me from doing things like a normal person, because I see how easy things come to my husband, and it takes me a lot longer to grasp things sometimes, and sometimes I just feel restricted by the disability, but then I need to sit back and remember that it's a different ability, it's not a disability, and it's just who I am, so I need to figure it out.
So there we have it. That was all 4 of us answering the same 10 questions. I hope this was interesting and educational and just a good watch, really. I really hope that you enjoyed it and maybe you learned something new from it. But yeah, thank you so much again to the 3 girls who gladly joined in with this collaboration. I am so grateful for the 3 of you. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you can, share it with your friends, your family, on your social media, and just spread the word. I think this is just such a cool idea, if I do say so myself, and I'd love for more people to see it if possible, so I'd be very grateful if you could share it with people who might be interested. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.